Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, with Gary Underhill, and formally and officially with Oathkeepers, right now you guys have got a camp set up. It's approximately 6 miles from the refuge.
Right.
Give us a tour of the camp. Tell us what your objective is, your mission objective is here.
Sure.
Um,
Well, we got here a couple days ago. We've got 2 sets of living quarters, one here, and Mel Bundy was gracious enough to bring this toy hauler out here last night. That way, our guys aren't necessarily having to sleep in the cold. And
oh, that's great.
yeah, cold and the wet, the snow. It was pretty bad last night. What we did is we came out, and this facility right here, this white tent behind me, this is our medical triage center. I was fortunate enough, our team is fortunate enough to have 2 medics on board. Both are trauma medics. One's a former Navy corpsman from Gitmo. The other is a combat experienced Army combat medic with also got some private contractor experience behind him.
Oh, that's great.
So we're, as far as I know, we are the only Oath Keepers organization in our region that has 2 certified trauma medics on board.
Wow, outstanding.
And so when we saw what was going on out here, and like I said, we've been organizing since early last summer, and I've been watching very closely what's been going on. Our team and I have been discussing it monthly, kind of waiting to see how it develops, whether it's something we needed to be involved in or not. And I've been conversing with Joe, Captain O, for quite some time, and we finally decided to, for lack of a better term, pull the trigger on it and pack up and come out. So we got very short notice. We got 7 guys to come out here. My 2 medics have since had to leave. Unfortunately, they've got hospital jobs back in town in Reno they couldn't get away from.
Right.
But they were able to come out. They got us set up. Right now we're in the process of developing some communication between the refuge and here, programming the radios around the same comms, so that if something happens down there, whether it's something as simple as
Anything.
someone breaking an ankle on the ice,
right.
Or God forbid something much worse, whatever medical assistance they have there, I understand they have 1 Army 11 Bravo combat medic that can help out. At least he can get them stabilized enough to where it's something more serious, we can get them here,
right.
and then get them hopefully to somewhere where they can be treated even further.
That's great. And tell us about your Oath Keepers organization in Northern Nevada, is that correct?
Nevada. We're out of Reno, Northern Nevada Oath Keepers.
Okay.
We started developing and organizing early this past summer. And we've got a group of, I got to tell you, I've got a team of about 24 guys, and they are all highly trained, highly motivated, very professional individuals. We're all believers, which is, first and foremost, very important to us. We train monthly, and I tell you what, I could not be prouder of the young men and women that I have, in our organization.
Outstanding. So, you were telling me a little bit about your background. You've got your former retired law enforcement.
I am. I spent 26 years as a police officer. I started my career at the Phoenix Police Department, ended up retiring in 2012 from the Carson City Sheriff's Office after I came back from Iraq in 2010. I served a tour in Afghanistan in 01-02 at the very beginning of the war, and then redeployed to Iraq in 2009, 2010 at the very end of the war. And I came back as a 48-year-old, 49, 50-year-old NCO.
Wow.
With everybody that comes home from there brings something back with them. And for me, unfortunately, it was some heart and lung issues. And being a cop, realizing my age, it's a young man's game. And I've had 26 really blessed years of being behind the badge. And I decided to pull the pin. Left the job and started my own business, and then involved into this.
That's right. That's outstanding. Thank you very much for serving your country right now in the capacity that you are. You realize how important this time in our nation's history it really is, and these issues with respect to land, you're understanding them, that as an Oath Keeper, Oath Keepers don't get involved in insignificant disputes. This is a constitutional crisis that must be resolved.
Huge. And there's going to be a lot more of this. There's going to be more Fergusons, there's going to be more Baltimores, there's going to be more Portlands, there's going to be more more Malheur wildlife refuges across this country until something changes, until something gets hold and we start getting our country back. You're going to see more and more of this. And we can't just sit idly by. I can't go sit in a cubicle, none of us can, just go sell insurance. We raised our hand to take an oath at one time. It's not what we do, this is who we are at our heart and soul.
Yes, sir.
We're protectors, we're servers. We've spent a lifetime serving our community. And it would be almost a sin to take those gifts and those blessings we've been given and not go out into our country and use those to the benefit of other people. Just because we're in Reno doesn't mean we can't benefit people here in Burns, Oregon.
I want you to speak to, because I have spoken to them. I'm an Oath Keeper myself, in that I'm a United States Marine, I swore an oath. And of course, I've been calling upon our active duty FBI agents, law enforcement, constitutional sheriffs.
Right.
and have specifically told them that, of what our objectives are as far as constitutional restoration, and through peaceful means, of course. I want you to speak to them and tell them that they should be joining us in this effort to
Oh my God.
enforce and restore our constitutional republic.
I could not agree with you more on that point. I would welcome the opportunity to talk to the individuals of the FBI, to talk with whatever federal agencies out here, the BLM, and sit down face to face with, and I consider them my brother law enforcement officers. Doesn't matter that they're on the federal side. They're my brother and sister law enforcement officers. And I still hold on to the fact that I believe in my heart that 99% of them are honorable, oath-keeping men and women. But we see in our history things like Waco, things like Ruby Ridge, all the YouTube videos of people behind the badge that have broken that oath.
Right.
And what I want to tell the public too is those people on YouTube, they're less than 1% of our law enforcement officers across this country, be it federal, state, local, municipal. But they get 100% of the bad press. And I would love to have the opportunity to be able to speak to the FBI and say, listen guys, remember that day, how proud you felt when you raised your right hand and you swore that oath to uphold and defend the Constitution of this country and to serve the people of this nation. That's what we do. No more Wacos, no more Ruby Ridges, none of that. These are dangerous times we're facing.
We are. And also, I want you to comment on the importance, because I've been trying to, myself, I went down to the FBI compound and told them, you know what, come out here and meet these people at the refuge. Get to know them. Sit down with them, break bread, have a cup of soup, and realize what the core constitutional issues are, which, as far as I'm concerned, are absolutely non-negotiable. That will not be negotiated out. But they should join us.
They should be. I had an opportunity yesterday to go to the compound, and I met Ryan Bundy and I met Mel Bundy, and I'd only seen them on TV before and on YouTube and on the news. I'd never met them in person, and I actually had an opportunity to sit there and listen to Ryan Bundy rather, outline what they have going on there and what their position is. And I got to tell you, I found it impossible to argue with him.
Yes, sir.
The Constitution backs up their claim.
Yes, sir.
And I listened to him. He's a very inspirational speaker. How this all turns out in the end, I mean, I don't know. I pray and I hope it ends peacefully.
That lack of communication, you being in law enforcement with decades of experience, tell us about what the end result would be for the FBI not to communicate with the people on the inside, for the sheriff's department not to come out here and engage with it. How will this end with that level or lack of communication?
Well, here's what I see. If I put my law enforcement hat on for a second, I was a former FBI trained hostage negotiator for my department SWAT team at one point in my career, and I was very proud to have done that. From my experience, and this is from my experience only, what appears as if going on right now is they're just waiting the Bundys out. They're hoping that they'll get bored, they'll get up and they'll walk away. That, however, is not going to happen. I don't see that happening.
No, sir.
The FBI, the federal authorities, local authorities, they have to open a line of communication. They cannot just sit back and ignore and pretend that this will just all go away, because it won't. This is a grassroots movement.
Yes.
It's not going to go away. They need to open that line of communication. If they are serious about resolving this peacefully, they have to sit down and talk to them.
Right.
I've offered my service as a former negotiator. I would be more than willing to sit down in that chair between the Bundys and the feds and say, okay, look, let's sit down, boys. What can we do to make this happen and make this end peacefully?
And it can be done peacefully.
Oh, absolutely it can.
But only through good communication.
You have to communicate. You can't have a one-sided conversation and expect the thing to fix itself.
Right.
Because it's certainly not going to.
Right. I mean, even if it's to assert on the other side, on the law enforcement side, here are your options. They're cut and dry, black and white. You have until sundown to get back in line. The other side will at least have that opportunity to say, well, that's not fair because we're trying to enforce the U.S. Constitution in the following regard.
Exactly.
The conversation commences from that point.
Exactly.
Right?
Both sides are going to have. There's going to have to be a little give and take, and I speak to both sides on that issue. There is no, we want this or nothing else is happening. There is no, we're the federal authorities, you leave or else. You can't have that, because what we don't need is, we don't need any more bloodshed. Those days of, and I hate to keep putting that black label on the federal authorities. Those days of Waco, those days of Ruby Ridge, those were days before the cell phone camera. Those were days before your every move is documented and plastered all over YouTube and all over social media. You know, I'll tell you right now, getting in the heads of law enforcement, the very last thing that they want, and I know this in my heart and soul, the very last thing they want is an armed conflict. But you know, I hear things like the sheriff of Hardin County say, you know, this is an hourglass and time is running out.
What is that?
Let me tell you something. The very worst thing you can do in a negotiation is tell somebody your time's running out.
Definitively.
Because you are going to put their back against a wall, they're going to dig in their heels, and they're going to fight. He was absolutely irresponsible, and I would tell the sheriff that to his face.
Yes,
you
sir.
were irresponsible for saying that, and that's a sign of an inexperienced law enforcement officer.
Yes, sir. I would agree with that. And also, we had some issues when I went down to the FBI compound. I had a safety concern that I cited when I contacted the sheriff's department, said I wanted a sheriff's deputy. They'd never sent anyone at all. They didn't send a Harney County sheriff. That is dereliction of duty.
They can't continue to do that.
They cannot continue to do that and
have
expect
to
good results, right?
You have to answer those calls for service.
Yes.
If you say, listen, here we are, we're dug in, we want to talk to you, talk to them. What do you have to lose?
Right.
How are you going to, first of all, you can't, let me put myself in the federal authority shoes for a second. You cannot formulate a strategy. You cannot formulate how you're going to get them out of there unless you know what's going on in their heads, unless you know what's going on inside that building.
Right.
And simply sitting here and waiting them out and then finally giving them an ultimatum and saying, guess what, you got 72 hours, boys, and then we're rolling in with the Bearcats and the MRAPs. You can't, that's a recipe for disaster.
Yes, for both sides.
I'm appalled at the lack of communication here that right now that's going on. It's just, it's very troubling.
Yeah, and I don't mean to antagonize, okay, but this is a very real possibility. We have to talk about this. Even with, let's say there's a small number, and sure, the federal government can overpower them, and, you know, a shooting war is nothing we would ever want because we know that we have the strongest military on the face of the planet.
Right.
But the bottom line is what that would set off is a cascade, a chain reaction that they will never be able to. There's no turning back from that point. This is a critical time in our nation's history, and a lot of patriots are watching on, coast to coast, are they not?
They are. It would set off a conflagration.
Yes.
It really would. And, you know, to the Bundys, I would say, you know, at what end then? What are you going to accomplish? They have to sit down and talk.
They do.
Have to. I'm really troubled about the way this is going. I'm at a loss to why there hasn't been any greater communication between the two parties.
Me too, and that's why I've emphasized this point. I wanted to get your professional opinion on this. I think they want to talk, they just need to make that first step. And hopefully you're involved in helping to facilitate that. I want to thank you very much for everything you're doing here. You know, this white tent, what's that white tent for?
This white tent behind us here, this is our medical triage facility. It's rather austere, but if you want to come with me, we'll take
Yeah, that'd be great, just to take a peek in there, just so everyone can see what you got going on in here.
Put together at the moment.
How about this trailer right here? Is this your power trailer?
This is ours, yes. This has our solar panels on it. This is what we run our power off of right here.
Oh, great.
It's also a spare living quarter in case we need it.
Uh-huh.
Come on in, I'll show you the facility.
Cool. It's great.
We have, watch the flap. We've got 2 cots in here for patients. We have oxygen. We have everything in here that we would need to treat minor injuries and some major injuries short of, you know, surgical procedures. What we're trying to do right now is I've been working on this for 2 days now and I haven't gotten a definitive answer. Trying to work on a line of communication between our end here and the compound so that we have the same frequencies on radio so that if they have something happen there, we can develop a CASEVAC plan where whatever medic they have on scene there can stabilize that individual, get them here, and get them to this location where we can stabilize them even further. I understand there's no ambulance service out here, that they've cut off the ambulance service. Is that correct? Or?
We've even contacted Sheriff's Department and they didn't respond. We had actually a physical altercation a few days ago and they didn't respond out here.
They need to, because they're setting people up to die unnecessarily.
Yes, sir. I absolutely agree.
I mean, we're going to do what we can here. There's several of us here that are combat lifesaver certified from our service in Iraq. But, you know, we can put a tourniquet on you. We can seal a sucking chest wound. We can treat you, but you're going to need a trauma surgeon anything after that.
Yes, sir.
And this is it. I mean, you're looking at, listen, anything that people could do to help us out with medical training, with medical supplies, you know, for the time that we are here, would be tremendously appreciated.
Yes, sir. It's a very, very important element here now added to the mix. Because I think you absolutely agree that this is not going to go away quickly. There's some work that needs to be done. on the
Yes.
negotiation side. And this is a good proactive measure to make sure that we mitigate any potential, physical
Absolutely.
hazards or anything like that. So that's great.
Absolutely. I just want to make it clear too that we are not here to go to war with the cops. We're not
No.
here to go to war with the federal authorities. We're here to support everybody and hopefully bring this to a peaceful conclusion. We, if necessary, we will stand between both parties to prevent bloodshed if that's what it takes.
Yes, sir.
Because I am convinced that there is a peaceful resolution to this. We don't have to start putting fingers on triggers. I pray to God that doesn't happen, because like we discussed, if it does, you're looking at the spark that will fire up something I don't even want to
No,
consider
sir.
as a reality.
No, sir. Absolutely not. Certainly nothing that anyone is looking for that I've spoken
Correct.
to. Thank you very much, Gary Underhill.
Thank you
I
very
appreciate
much.
it. Thank you for your service to our
Appreciate your time.
country.
Thank you.
Thank you.